Good morning. Welcome to my channel. It's Lisa, and today we're doing a mixed media video. I was really excited to work on something that was spring-like, and we're using an 8x10 MDF board, and I'm going to put down some collage papers, and I'm using some music papers and some pink and cream colored wallpaper that I have. And I want to create a mason jar with some flowers in it. And I really thought that this would be nice and springy for a nice March piece. So I hope you like it. And I'm hoping you're looking forward to spring like I am. The snow has started to melt and we only have maybe a couple feet outside, and I'm looking forward to the warmer weather. So here I'm putting down a piece of wallpaper, and I wanted this to resemble maybe a kitchen tablecloth. So I'm giving it a rip on the end, and I'm going to put down a piece of old vintage lace. And I thought that would be kind of neat for texture, and it would create like the illusion that it was lace hanging from a tablecloth, obviously. And I wondered if I should put it under or over, and I went with under. I hope that looks all right. And I'm going to put it down with some matte medium and just tuck it under there. And it looks like a tablecloth to me. I'm thinking I need some matte gel because it is kind of bulky, so I'm giving that a good coat. Lots of things have been happening in my life lately, and I can't wait to share them with you. I'm hoping you're enjoying the videos and the Saturday series that we started. And that is finishing some art journal pages. I had lots of positive comments on it, so I'm thinking that we'll keep doing it. I just love wallpaper. I can't hardly stop using it. I trimmed off the edges, and then I was going to push that background a little bit back using my gesso. Now, I was waiting for Shawn's stencils to come in the mail. She has some new spring stencils, and I hadn't gotten them yet, but I really wanted to do this piece with a mason jar. So I just went ahead and printed one and used the outline from that. Here I'm trying to put down a stencil and maybe give it the illusion that there's a old-fashioned doily on top of the tablecloth. But you can see in the pictures, it didn't really work like I thought it would. But it added some neat texture, and we'll leave it alone. It didn't hurt anything. It was just a try. Just digging out what color paints I wanted to have, and I was trying to think about making that top portion look like a bit of wallpaper behind the table. Just using a piece of plastic packaging and putting down a little bit of Dina Wakley elephant gray, and I really love Dina Wakley's acrylic paints. They are so smooth and creamy and really fun to work with. I'll list it below in the description for you. And then, of course, my good old standby, some deco art in one of my favorite green colors, and it is that light avocado. I'm thinking now that it may be a little bit dark for the background wallpaper that I'm trying to create, because I'm going to have a lot of greenery for the flowers. So I went to some chalk paint by Plaid, and this is Summer Porch. I've been using it a lot lately, and again, I'm really getting into those chalk paints. It's just a great texture. So here I'm putting it down, and I'm trying to create, like I said, a little bit of wallpaper design to the background. So it looks like the table, and then some wallpaper on the wall behind the mason jar with flowers. That was my thought anyway. I liked how it turned out. It was a little bit bright for me, but you know, we can fix anything. And that stencil I use a ton from Shawn, and I'll link it below with a link to all of her stencils. Here I'm just going to add a little bit of watered down gesso to push that Summer Porch bright yellow back a bit. And of course I'll be using a little paper towel to lift a little bit of that, and there. That's kind of what I was envisioning. Didn't want to waste that little bit of gesso there, so I just scraped it on the piece. Sorry about my head. I'm still trying to get used to my new camera setup here. I'll keep that more mindful, and I apologize about that. Here's that mason jar I just printed off, and I'm using just a piece of graphite paper, and I'm going to place it down on my piece, and I'm going to use a stylus, I guess it is, and just go ahead and draw that image of the mason jar on my piece. Just making sure it's going through. You hate to do a whole bunch of it and then it's not working. I've been using a lot of that graphite paper a lot in my art lately. It gives you the look of an image without going ahead and having to use the image and printing it out. So here I'm just using that outline, and I'm using some of my gesso to fill in the image of that mason jar. You could see in the beginning of my video today that I had a little section that was my new logo. It has a mason jar with the paintbrushes coming out of it, and it says created by Lisa Thill, and then create, learn, and grow underneath. I would love your comments to let me know what you thought about my new logo. I'm hoping that it kind of goes with what I'm trying to show people, my different techniques and using that in my art. So let me know what you think. And here I'm using one of Shawn's stencils, and I'm just filling in those stems so that you can see them through the mason jar, but we're going to make sure it's not super dark. I'm choosing what kind of paint I wanted to go with, and I'm using some blue metallic acrylic paint, and we're just going to fill in that mason jar. I like the blue ones, the old antique ones, and so that's the look I'm going for. You can let me know if you think I achieved it or not. I liked how the piece turned out. It took a little bit of doing, but that was worth it. Now I'm just wiping some of that off so that it creates the roundness of the jar and leaving that highlight on the right side. I'm just using a baby wipe to create that. Filling it a little bit on the left side to create that definition. And it's a process going back and forth until you get it the way you like it. But it's definitely rewarding in the end. I really enjoyed how the piece turned out. It was exactly what I was looking for. And it did tell me that I needed to practice my flowers a little bit. So here I'm putting in some greenery with that light avocado paint, and I'm just using a piece of foam sponge and filling that in through the stencil. I'm being sure just to use a small amount of paint so it doesn't squish through the stencil and leave a blob of paint. And again, this is one of Shawn's stencils, and I'll list it below. I'm using a little piece of painter's tape there so that I'm masking off the jar. Now I'm putting a small cluster of leaves, a stem, down at the bottom so it looks like the piece has fallen out of the arrangement. I thought that kind of looked nice and brought the color of green down a little bit in the piece. Using a little bit of lighter color green and adding a little bit to the stems for a different color and texture for the floral. Being careful to wipe the paint off of my stencil so it doesn't leave a large mark. Now I'm looking what kind of flowers we should have. Just going through my stash of stencils. I wanted to put some of those, I think they're cotton pods, and I'm just going to use them as a white flower. Be sure to look at all of the flowers that you have in your stash. They can be used differently. So I'm just adding those white pods, and I think in the end I actually did put some yellow paint on these, so they ended up to be yellow flowers. It's just what you feel you need to create your project. So I'm using makeup sponge here, I believe, and that other foam is called cut and dry foam. I was trying to think of the name. I'll try and leave it linked below for you. It's just got a little bit of different texture, and I'm just trying to use up things that are in my stash. I'm always telling you that. Here's some really great red distress paint from Tim Holtz. I want to say it's abandoned coral, but I'll double check that. And it just adds a great pop of color to the piece. And don't be afraid, just go ahead and create. We can always cover it up, remember? We can take a paintbrush and cover this whole thing up if we don't like it. Putting a little bit of a red flower down to the lower right there. Here's some more paint by Dina Wakley. This one is lemon, and I cannot tell you how much I love her paint. I'm going to have to get a few more colors to add to my stash. It is just a great consistency for stenciling, and the colors are just vibrant. I also did see meet Dina Wakely at Creativation when I was in Phoenix. What a lovely person she is. Very talented, very nice, and real nice, willing to talk to you and explain what she's creating. I'm using just a medium paintbrush, small to medium, and I'm just adding some paint back to the flowers here to give them some more depth and dimension. And no rhyme and reason here. I'm just putting a little white there, adding some of the insides to the flower and filling in some of those bare gaps. And I really liked how it turned out. Like I said, I need to practice my flowers, and Shawn has a great workshop. I'll link it below to see if you're interested, and I'm sure she'd love for you to sign up. And I think the cost of her workshops may be between somewhere between $25 and $50. And a great thing to remember is that you can have them for the rest of your life. I mean, you can go back and revisit a workshop anytime, and it's a great learning tool to have that in your stash. It's kind of like having one of your tools, your brushes, your stencils. They're never going to well, they could fall apart, but I mean, you're going to have them for a very, very long time, and that's just like having a workshop of Shawn's. Once you have it in your stash, you're going to have it forever, and you can keep going back to watch it. I think maybe that's what I will do this next week, go back and watch that flower workshop again and see if I can get a little bit better at it. I'm sure I can. Flowers are looking better already, I think. Now I'm adding a little stem to that flower, and I'm adding a little bit of different color into the greenery, pulling all those pieces together. It's just going back and forth until you get it exactly how you'd like it. And remember, you're going to use some shading, so if it's not looking finished yet, there's quite a bit left to do. We've got all the shading and the highlights and lowlights. And of course the shadows really make the piece. And of course my favorite part is going around that edge with the black crayon or charcoal or what have you. It just really, like I say, finishes the piece. I added a few of little petals down there on the bottom by that stem. I thought I needed to bring that color of the coral down to the bottom right, and I believe it does pull your eye down there to the bottom. Take that piece of tape off so we can see what we're doing here, and I'm just using a little bit more of that paint with my finger and adding a few more drips and a few more little swooshes of paint there. Here I have a little tool that is like a pouncer, and I thought it would give a great airy little flower to the piece, maybe something like baby's breath, and it really did. The piece just really needed a little bit more white there, and it makes a really great texture, so it's just a different way of having your flower there. I'm letting everything dry real good, and I'm going to use my wash of burnt umber and water, and of course this will bring everything together. I really like this finishing touch to the pieces that I do, and I believe that it gives the great definition that it really needs, especially on that lace on the bottom. That's really going to add some oomph to that. Just spraying with water here and letting that paint run. And just using a wet baby wipe there and dabbing up a little bit of it so it's not too dark, and we'll see where we can get it. A little bit more water. I really like it when it runs like that. I think it's looking good now. The lace on the bottom looks real good. And here I'm just thinking that I need to add in those shadows, and we'll do a bunch more of that with our charcoal pencil. Here's the sentiments that I had. I wasn't sure if I wanted to have them in the brown or the black archival ink, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to have it in the large print or the smaller print. So I stamped them on tissue paper so I could switch them out and see what I liked the best. And I went with the smaller print bloom in the brown, and I think it turned out just great. I'm just using a set of rubber stamps that I had in my stash. I'm not sure what the name is, but I'll make sure I list it. It's a great font, and I'm always looking for different fonts to add my sentiments to my pieces. I'll save those tissue paper sentiments for maybe something in the future. So I put them in my drawer with all of my stash. And now I have I believe I'm using a blue. Nope, it actually looks like a black Stabilo pencil here. I have a black one, a blue one, and now I also have a brown one and a white one. I'm really liking Stabilo pencils, and I'm just blending it with some plain water. I think it is my blue. I apologize. I can't really see it really great here from the distance. Yep, it's my blue. And I thought it added a lot of definition to that jar. And I love how the water just makes it smooth and run like that. Getting out my charcoal pencil and adding some smudges to create those shadows that would be on the side of the jar where the light's hitting from the right. The shadow would be on the left. And I'm using a little water to make that paint thin out a little bit there. I'm going to have some still shots at the end for you. I just added that line that would be between the table and the wall so that I have definition there. I'm going to go around the outside with my black marabou crayon, I believe, adding some more black smudges with my charcoal pencil. I'm going to put some Stabilo pencil in those flowers just to add a little bit of depth and dimension. And make sure that you leave your comments below. I hope you liked this nice spring project, and I'll be working with Shawn's spring stencils here real quick in the future. Probably next Tuesday I'll have a piece for you, and we'll get into some of that product from Stamperia that I have that big box to go through. I'll leave a link to an unboxing video so that you can see all of the great stuff that I got. And we have a couple of art journal pages that we need to finish on Saturday, don't we? I'm hoping you're liking that series also. Don't be afraid to leave me comments. I'd love for you to share with a friend so we can grow my channel. And if you need anything, there'll be links in the description box below. And what happens there is if you order something, I get a small bit of the sale from the company, and it is at no cost to you. It is from the company, and it helps me keep growing my channel and bringing you great content. So thanks so much for watching again, and I'm going to finish up this piece, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you.